All right, round one for the A-League 24-25 season is finally here. Now, if you haven't watched one of these videos before, what we do is we're going to go through every game one by one and give you our thoughts on it. We're also going to make a prediction, and then we come back next week and we judge those predictions against each other, and they could be anything. It could be crowd size, could be goal scorer, it could be whatever you want. You'll figure it out as we go along, and then we'll vote a 3-2-1 for best prediction, most accurate prediction. And then we add the points up over the course of the season and we get a winner. And of course, last season, that winner was me. We did the predictions game. We did ladder predictions for the A-League men's and women's competition, and I won all three. So the target is on my back. I've felt the heat in pre-season during the Australia Cup, but it's on. It's on again. And the first game we're going to tackle, of course, as I say, that grand final rematch, Central Coast Mariners against the Victory. Christian, who you got in this one?
I don't see much between these two teams, to be honest. The Mariners coming off the back of two games in Asia, home and away. Perhaps they've got a bit of an edge there in terms of the intensity. But then again, Victory just recently came off an Australia Cup final. So I do think it'll be evenly contested. And yeah, if I had to choose, probably a draw to kickstart the season. Neither team wanting to lose, getting a point on the board. So yeah, I'd go with a draw.
Yeah, I very much like the draw here as well. I don't think either side, if either side were to win it, I don't think either side would win it so much as one side is losing it. We know that, Victory are going to be without Arzani for round one, and that experimentation didn't exactly work in the Australia Cup final the way PK would have hoped. The Mariners have also struggled in Asia, so it very much would be a side capitalising on a defensive mistake rather than actively encouraging the attack themselves, if that makes sense for me, if either side were to win it.
Are we still calling Arzani an experimentation? We're still drinking that Gatorade?
It's the official line.
Well, I think Arzani would be really good in this game, though, because the defensive issues we've seen the Mariners have in their Asia campaign so far are the exact sort of things that Arzani, I think, would be really good at exploiting. So I do think that Victory might actually miss him in this game, and that he could have an absolutely huge impact going forwards. But I mean, just on paper alone, Victory look the stronger side. Obviously, they made the final of the Oz Cup, but I don't think they were playing particularly fantastic football in that game, and even in the game against Adelaide in the semi-final, they didn't look amazing. But then, as the others have pointed out, the Mariners haven't looked amazing in Asia yet either. So I'm going to go with Poletti and Christian and probably say a draw here is the most likely.
Yeah, interesting. Victory did struggle when they got to A-League opposition, so they'll have to overcome that hurdle. I still think they'll go up to Gosford and get a win. Central Coast just look, obviously their squad's been depleted and they look a little bit off the pace. So I have Victory. But let's go to Ross. He's phoning in with our first official prediction of the 24-25 season.
I'm going to go Victory lose and more than 3.5 goals in the Sydney Derby.
Okay, so a combo between two games, but Ross has paired them together, a win for Central Coast Mariners and then goals in the Western Sydney v Sydney Derby. Now, Poletti, I'm introducing a new rule into this year's competition. I haven't consulted anyone about this because remember, round ball is a dictatorship, not a democracy. But I'm going to say no clarifying questions on predictions. Okay, this year. So you're not allowed to go, for clarification's sake, if this happens, then this happens. We just got to deal with it next week. Whatever happens will happen. Whatever will be, and we'll figure it out down the road. All right. So you got to be very particular the first time around when you word it. That's it.
Yes, Your Honour.
Okay, leave it up for debate because that's where the fun content comes from. Let's move on. We got Auckland FC, massive game. It looks like they're going to get a bumper crowd up there for their first game at home against the Brisbane Roar, who, Christian, you previewed for us on the website. A little bit of a mixed bag of talent, really could come out with anything.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what to make of this game? Obviously, opening up the season with Ruben Zadkovic, he was at the helm end of last season. But, coming up a team against Auckland that they won't be familiar with. So that's going to be very tricky in itself with the manager in Steve Corica, who knows what it takes to make finals. And, he's been in this position countless times before. So I actually see an Auckland win here. If I had to tip a winner, I think at home, first game, that'd be a fairy tale dream start for them in New Zealand to kickstart their season.
I wonder. It's just got the story about it. Of course, Auckland coming in, and I really do think that Brisbane, the bag of tricks in the league this year, they really could come out with absolutely anything. We're not quite sure, but Auckland have assembled a good squad. I'm with you. I think they get off to a winning start.
Yeah, I think that getting off to a winning start will be absolutely paramount for them. That they want to make Mount Smart Stadium. That was not pun intended. I can see your smiles. They want to make Mount Smart Stadium a fortress. They're getting very close to a sellout, if not possibly sold out by the time you view this. So getting off on the right foot will absolutely help them do that. 3 points is an absolute must.
I think Brisbane's biggest issue is that they weren't fantastic last season defensively. So they've gone to improve that by signing defenders from another team that weren't fantastic defensively. So it does sort of seem like at best a sideways step for them there in that part of the field. So yeah, look, Auckland are going to want to come out strong and set the tone for the season ahead. And I think that Brisbane, that anything could happen with them because they've made a lot of signings. It's almost a completely different team now, but I don't think that they've improved necessarily in the areas that they needed to be able to improve on the results that they saw last season.
All right, interesting. Let's move on to the Jets versus City in the Hunter, the first game of our new kind of not super Saturday, but we get 2 in a row, so it's maybe a mild Saturday, something like that. But it's 2 in a row, and we get this new panel show in between, so it's going to be fun. But Pelletti, what do you see from the Jets and City?
Well, I mean, there are some weeks that it will be a Super Saturday because I was having a look at the A-League women draw today on the A-League app, and it appears as though there are some of the 2:15 p.m. kickoffs on Saturdays, which are slated for 10 bold broadcast.
Right,
so
okay.
I did see that as a nice little note. So it's 2:15 into 5 p.m. into 7:30 p.m. So we will get Super Saturday some weeks.
Yeah. Nice.
For this particular game, I think that this is going to be a case of Bidmar now has the security of a 2-year contract. Kind of had a little bit of a disagreement last season with him at a press conference with the way I phrased one of my questions as to whether or not he was under pressure from the club, which he strongly disagreed with.
Did he mention Pissant Town by any chance?
No, he did not. But then you look at the Jets as well. New ownership, Robbie Stanton. Can he turn the results around? I think this just leads to a Melbourne City win.
I actually don't have an opinion on this game, to be honest. It's one of those ones where, you just, what even is this game? There's so much, unknown about these two sides. I mean, City, I know we'll get into predictions later on, but I don't fancy him this season for some reason. So, Jets at home. I guess I'd lean towards the Jets, but yeah, if I was a betting person, I would not be touching this game at all.
Is this where we insert the Futurama line? I have no strong opinions one way or the other.
I think you're overestimating Futurama audiences, but I'm not high on City, and then I also think that Newcastle Jets haven't really improved. So yeah, I'm kind of with you, Christian. I'd probably stay in the middle towards a draw. Maybe give City the edge just with some of their quality, but yeah, it's hard to tell.
I think that City, over the course of a season, will have enough there to be able to get something out of it, but I don't think that they'll necessarily get to a really strong start. So, yeah, I'd probably say a draw as well.
All right, here we go. Off to the big one then. Wanderers versus City. Juan Mata versus Douglas Costa. It's going to be massive. It's very close to selling out. We'll have to see if it gets officially over the line on Saturday night. Of course, we had some injury news actually during the week. Lawrence Thomas, the Wanderers' new captain, is out of the game almost certainly. So that's going to be tough. Sydney FC have been firing in the ACL2 in pre-season. So I have Sydney by a decent margin, and I'm going to come in with my official prediction for the round is that Douglas Costa will register a goal contribution. So either a goal or assist in his first A-League game in the Sydney
Derby. No. What happened to no clarifications? No, what happened to...
No, but he's got to say at least once to actually clarify what he means.
No. I'm saying my prediction. No one's allowed to ask me any questions. That's the clarification bit.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be an absolutely massive game. I am planning on being there at this point, but my health has been how you doing this week, so we'll see what kind of state I am in come Saturday. But This is going to be a massive atmosphere. Wanderers, new coach, new expectations. A lot of fans were happy, I guess, with the previous coach's departure. Although the circumstances certainly weren't what anyone would have liked. And thoughts out to Rudan's family. But as you know, Sydney FC, they're not going to have David Drillich. So Ofi Tale, Kenny continue to implement that press. That's going to be a very fascinating question. I think this just has all the makings of early season barnstorming, cracking contest to watch, even though I am not a fan of derbies in the opening rounds. I think let the season sort of settle in a little bit. But, both sides get a few games under their belt before you have the derby. But TV broadcast dictates got to have bumper game pretty much every week.
I really hope I'm wrong, but I just see not a dull contest, but a really cagey affair between these two. And that sort of has the makings of either no goals or maybe a 1-0 scoreline in there somewhere. Because even last season, I believe the Melbourne Derby, the first two fixtures were 0-0 draws. And whenever these games get hyped up, they fail to deliver sometimes. And I hope it doesn't. It's not the case, but I just have this sneaky suspicion that it will happen. So it's tough to call. Probably another draw. I'm leaning on the fence again with this one.
You really are. All right, Jacob.
Yeah.
Christian's not taken any risks so far, which doesn't bode well for the rest of the season for his predictions. Sounds like he might be playing it a bit safe, but no, I'm actually really excited I'm really excited for this game. I think it could be fantastic. I don't quite agree that it'll be. I think it'll be cagey, but in an exciting way rather than in a boring way. I don't think the teams will come out and play cautiously and it be a cagey match in that sense. It'll be both teams really putting their best foot forward, and that's what causes it to be cagey, is that it's these two teams doing absolutely everything they can to get themselves over the line. So look, just on the strength of the squad alone, I'm going to probably tip Sydney for that one. I just think that from what we've seen of their squad so far, they've got a really strong unit and a lot of good quality starting players as well. Whereas, the Wanderers, they've certainly improved season on season, but new coach, a lot of turmoil last season. I think that Sydney will probably have the edge.
All right. Let's, I think this is a good time. Let's go to Will.
Okay, so round one is upon us in the A-League. What an off-season it's been, and thank God it's back. Super, super keen. So to kick it off for my predictions, I'm going to go Mariners repeat the grand final epic and they get a 3-1 win tonight as I'm recording in the fixture against Victory. So 3-1 there. I want New Boys Auckland to win their game against Raw. I think they'll get off to a hot start. And then I want Sydney to win, so Sydney FC to win or draw, double chance there in the Sydney Derby on Saturday night. So hedge my bets a little bit, but I'm going to go specific for the Mariners game. I think they've got it at 3-1. It's just a lovely score, so hopefully that comes through.
Sorry, in classic Will fashion, going so hard, so early, when he absolutely doesn't need to for Letty.
I like that. I really like that a lot. And I think that's the only comment I'm going to make here, lest I get myself cancelled.
All right, let's move on swiftly. Going over to Sunday, Wellington Phoenix back at the Cake Ton. Since they got eliminated by Melbourne Victory in the semi-finals last year, playing against Western United. Jacob, you're shaking your head at me. Is it because of this matchup here, or the poor New Zealand accent I put on?
Probably a mix of both. No, I previewed Western United for the website, and look, I don't think that they'll be a particularly fantastic side, and Wellington are a bit of an unknown at the moment. So this could be one of those fixtures that becomes entirely forgettable in the grand scheme of things. And this is one where I'm going to sit firmly on the fence and not say who's going to go and do what, because I just couldn't say for sure. Western have quality in some areas and then not a lot of quality elsewhere. Wellington have, chopped and changed their squad since last season, but the coach is still there. So anything could go there. And let's just say your accent there as well, Lockie, your pronunciation was, it was an admirable effort. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm still really high on Wellington this year. I know they lost a few key players, but I think they've recruited pretty well for what they could have done I have them, Christian, winning this game comfortably.
I do as well. But it's interesting because both of these teams got knocked out early in the Australia Cup, I believe. Western was the playoffs against the Jets, got smashed, I think 4-1 it was. And then the Phoenix obviously bailed out to South Melbourne early in the round of 32. So both of these sides haven't had really competitive fixtures. They've had a couple of games, practice matches behind closed doors. But when you get into the thick of it, sometimes it can, spring surprises on you. And especially in that second half, I expect tiring legs, perhaps some more opportunities to creep in. And this is where my prediction comes in. So I believe that a goal will be scored in the second half of all 6 games in this round. And I'll add an extra caveat to it with a booking in each game.
Okay, not necessarily. Sorry, no questions. I'm sorry. I almost broke my own rule.
Your Honor.
Yeah, no questions, Your Honor.
I'm sorry.
Move on.
I'm sorry.
Move on.
All right, moving on.
Look, I on the surface, I do tend to agree with Jacob, but I can't help but think back, and I don't remember if it was the season, like last season or the season before, but there was an opening round Wanderers versus Perth Glory game that very much went in the same sort of vein as to what Jacob was describing. Very forgettable. The difference is that game was played in 30-plus degree heat on a Sunday afternoon in Western Sydney, whereas Wellington, 18 degrees, perfect footballing weather. Look, I like the idea of Wellington Phoenix this year under Italiano. I think we saw a lot of what he could do last season, and I think he'll continue it. My prediction is not this, but I think in this game we'll very much see shirts off in the 80th minute. But that's not my official prediction. That's just a little bit of a how you doing sort of vibe.
All right, final game of the round. Perth Glory. Sorry. Yes, it is Perth Glory. I was looking at round 2 for a second there. MacArthur against Perth Glory in Campbelltown to finish us off on Sunday night. This one is interesting to me because you have MacArthur who have come off of winning the cup. They actually added some very interesting experienced pieces to their squad. And Perth Glory, you've got the complete opposite with a new coach, new identity, with a really potentially mixed bag as well to see what they could come out with.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this one. I think this will set the tone. This sort of game will set the tone for MacArthur very early in the season. They do face the Jets next week, so I think we'll learn very quickly across the opening 2 games for MacArthur where this side will actually sit. Was the cup run an anomaly, or is this going to lead to some sort of dominance from MacArthur this season? Whereas for Perth Glory, we saw glimpses of it in terms of the Zrillich press already being implemented within the games, and it did look quite good. The game that they got knocked out in the Australia Cup, and obviously they went down to 10 just before halftime, off the top of my head. It was either just before or just after. So we didn't quite get to see it in full flight there, but when we did get to see it, it looked very well. They've had another 2 months of preseason since then to really implement it properly, get everyone's fitness up, and so I think it's just going to be very fascinating to see in an actual competitive league fixture whether that comes off.
Jacob, I have Perth Glory absolutely running full beans at a very resilient MacArthur defense. I think this is a kind of a game that could be like a 1-0 MacArthur in the same kind of vibe as the Cup, get them on a break when they've got some holes in their defense. That's how I see it.
It's definitely possible, but maybe I'm insane, but I kind of rate Perth this season. Perhaps it's because there's just a whole lot of unknowns, especially in the mid-table area where a lot of teams sort of look a bit even on paper. And I think Perth just have that little bit of something about them that make them a bit more interesting, a bit more appealing to a neutral to think that they might actually go on and do some, perhaps some crazy stuff this season and get into finals and cause some problems there. And this is going to be a good test for them because they're going to be coming up against a really tough, strong defensive side in MacArthur. We know how they like to play and be super resilient, get ahead early and hold on to those leads. Whereas Perth, from what we've seen, both, towards the end of last season and throughout the preseason, is that, they come out all guns blazing and they try and stick with that for as long as they can. And it often leads to these really exciting finishes to matches, which are the sort of things that MacArthur are trying to avoid. So I honestly think it might go the other way. I think that Perth might be able to just sneak one past MacArthur, and the Bulls, then not being used to being behind, sort of struggle to regroup and get forwards. And I think that Perth definitely are in with a shout to win it.
think the advantage of this game happening very early in the season in round one is having sat through one too many MacArthur v Perth games at Campbelltown that have just been absolute bore fests for the first 45 minutes. I think everyone's going to be energetic. I think everyone's going to be ready to go. In the sense that if it is a 45 minutes, it's because sides are being cautiously optimistic rather than not trying to do anything. A lot of those games were impacted by heat. They usually took place in the peak of summer. But for the most part, like, they haven't exactly been the most entertaining contest. And I think we could be on here for an entertaining contest throughout the entire 90 minutes.
Hopefully you're right, because that will bode well with my prediction with the exciting finishing a goal in the second half. So, no, but I think he's really just doing really good stuff so far. I've been really impressed what he's been doing at the Glory. I think they've got that fearless edge to them now. They've been lacking in seasons past, but the first couple of games, I don't expect it to be easy for them. And coming up against MacArthur, who I was very impressed with during this whole Australia Cup run, not just the final, the way they were set up defensively, just their overall play in general. I think they've got some really bright sparks, and a coach in Stojovski who I think can get the best out of this squad. And I just think round one, can Perth settle early and not let the wheels fall off, essentially, away from home. I think MacArthur can pick Perth apart here and maybe even win by 2 or 3 goals to start off. But that's not a reflection of Perth's season moving forward. I just think this game is going to come at a bad time for Zrilic.
And I think that leads in perfectly to my prediction. You said there something that stuck out to me, which was Stojovski's going to get the best out of this side. And I think with where I'm going with my prediction, that's key to this, because it will help ensure that this won't impact any sort of prediction I make in the future. I think for round one that the average attendance is going to be over 16,500, because this is a game I'm worried about absolutely dragging that number down and killing my prediction.
Okay.
I love MacArthur. I love what they're doing at Campbelltown, but the attendances did climb a little bit last season, but they're still very much lacking, and I'm very much hopeful that with a continued winning culture, which I think Stojovski can implement and get the best out of this side, those will only continue to grow.
Yeah, for sure. Have we heard from everyone?
Not me, because I've not had a really good spot to put it in, to be honest, because mine is encompassing the whole round. And I was looking at the fixtures, and there's nothing that really shouted out to me as being, this is going to have a lot of goals in it. And so my prediction is that none of the games are going to be a win by more than 2 goals. I just think that early season we usually see those big results, but it's just not. None of those fixtures are saying that to me so far this season. I'm looking at them and I don't really see where that massive result might come from. Maybe Wellington Western, and it could be a Derby implosion from one of the Sydney sides, but otherwise I just don't really think that there's scope for a massive win early on here. So yeah, that's my prediction.
Fascinating. Direct results. All right, there you go. There are our tips and predictions for round one of the A-League Men